Hello fellow Blackburnians and Darreners. I hope you're having a very nice day today. I thought I'd do something a bit different. This is my audio article on the Grand Theatre that used to be on Jubilee Street. Here we go. Just behind the Palace Theatre, which we covered in my last article, was the Grand Theatre, stood where the BT Telephone Centre is on Jubilee Street. It had taken many changes on over the years. The original was built in 1875 and called the Amphitheater of Varieties. It was a very popular venue until 1878, when it was announced in the Blackburn Standard by the owners J.J. Mason and R. Bennett that the night of the 2nd of March 1878 would be their last night of lease. They had been compelled to give up the possession of the building, and it was later demolished, just to be replaced a few months later by the same people. The brand new Star Theatre had opened on the 20th of May 1878 and was announced to be the first real music hall in Blackburn. The building was a large brown bricked building. It had a large auditorium which went around three sides. They called this the gallery. The theatre had a very large stage and was lit with gas lanterns all the way around. It had to be because it sat between 3,000 and 4,000 people, and they all had to see what was going on that stage. It was a very warm and comfortable building, but all the glamour and comfort was very short-lived, as on the 29th of September 1878, a fire broke out and ripped through the building. Witness statements and staff's accounts say that just before the closing at 9 p.m, all was well and quiet. The Evangelical Society used the theatre during the afternoon and evening, and everything was fine. The theatre closed and everyone went home. Just a few hours later, before midnight, a police officer was doing his rounds, and nothing was wrong. But just half an hour later, another policeman saw glowing glare coming from the theatre. He ran to the spot, but the roof had already been burnt through. Despite the best efforts of the fire department, the theatre was lost. The fire was so big and bright that you could still see it from quite a distance away. The cinders travelled half a mile away to the new market square near King William Street. When the fire had submerged, there was only a pile of charred wood left. The amount of damage financially came to £3,000, and seeing as the theatre was only open from the previous May, the building was uninsured, but somebody had to pay for it. Not all was lost though. Mr. Duval, who owned the Royal Theatre on Ainsworth Street, offered his theatre at Mr. Mason's command for a fundraising night so that the theatre could be rebuilt. But Mr. Mason decided to arrange it at the Exchange Hall the Friday after, just so the theatrical group could play at the Royal instead. He didn't think it was fair that they lost work because of the incident, which was very thoughtful considering his theatre had just burnt down. Soon after, the new theatre was being built to replace the Star Varieties. It was in the same land on Jubilee Street with a brand new owner called Edward Trevanian. On the 23rd of February 1880, the theatre was complete and was named Trevanian's Amphitheater. It had this name until Edward Trevanian was granted his licence to present stage plays. Then it was given the name the New Prince's Theatre on the 5th of December 1880. The theatre's new seating capacity was at 1,089, with pit stalls, orchestra stalls, and a dress circle and auditorium. 26 years later, in 1906, the theatre was revamped and had 8 dressing rooms built into the back for the actors. The whole backstage interior was renewed. The acts were more orchestra-orientated than the plays and the pantomimes. It wasn't until the 50s that the pantomimes were mainly presented in the theatre, most popular starring many local celebrities at that time. In 1920, the theatre had changed hands of ownership and was run by the owners of the Olympia on Market Street, then renamed the Grand Theatre. In the early 1930s, the Grand Theatre became a full-time cinema. But just 3 years later, in 1933, it had closed and became a theatre again. Also, in the 50s, the Grand Theatre schedule had been regulated to racing shows. On the week of the 6th of November, Strikingly Saucy was presented. Over 18s only, mind. The Circus and the Continental Ballet were both presented in 1954, but sadly in 1956 the cinema played its last show on the 22nd of January. 2 years later, in 1958, the cinema was demolished and a new Jubilee Street telephone exchange was built. It is also said that the ghost of Edward Trevanian haunts the BT telephone centre to this day. That's just a rumour though. Does anybody remember this cinema? Maybe you had relatives who worked there or owned it. We would love to know. Thank you for listening to this. Have a nice day.